There's so much growing research about the gut-brain axis, how important that connection is.
90% of our serotonin, which is our happy hormone, is actually produced in our gut, not in our brain. It is paramount that when you're dealing with our mental health issues, you are focusing on your gut health. It is paramount. We started to see the abuses in the industry, saw the overprescribing of medications and never getting better. The system is broken. I mean, it is a sick care system. It is not a healthcare system. And I know that's overused, but it is worth repeating because it is a sick care system. We are not focusing on our health in this country.
Welcome to Biohack-it, where we are redefining wellness for the modern era. I'm your host, Iman Hassan, here to help you optimize your mind, body, and spirit. Every Thursday, we dive deep into biohacking, holistic health, and cutting-edge science, breaking down the latest research on longevity, chronic disease prevention, and much more. We're challenging outdated wellness norms and having authentic, unfiltered conversations about women's health, fertility, longevity, and everything in between. Follow Biohack-it now and start living your best, healthiest life on your own terms. Remember that curiosity heals. Tina, just to kind of kickstart, like the first thing, when I was, putting these questions together and reading about you and this incredible brand that you've built and co-founded, what made you decide to leave the pharmaceutical industry? And what was that change that you were seeing firsthand?
Yeah, it was multifactorial. But I'm an attorney, so I was in law for many years. I was doing, I was in litigation in court all the time, working crazy hours. And I'm like, I cannot do this. I can't withstand, this type of a lifestyle. So I decided to go into a family pharmaceutical business, which I was so excited about. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm involved in delivering life-saving medications and making a difference in the world. But after being in that industry for a while, we started to see the abuses in the industry. My husband and I were both in the industry together, saw the abuses in the industry, saw the overprescribing of medications, and we saw it with our own family members. And I think that's what was so hard for us is we saw this overprescribing of medications where one of our family members was on one pharmaceutical, and then before you know it, she was on a dozen different medications and never getting better. Just always they were like, they put her on one thing for a joint pain, and then the next thing you know, that would cause stomach issues, and then they have another medication for stomach issues, and then that would cause a skin rash. So it was like this never-ending cycle, and I'm like, we're not really doing our life's work here, are we? And so we decided to, look into the natural health and wellness space. It was the way we lived our lives anyway with our own family, our 3 kids. We tried to err on the side of doing things naturally. When our kids had a fever, we would always kind of let them have a fever. And of course, unless it was dangerous. But we recognize that there is a role for pharmaceuticals. Of course, they save lives. I mean, antibiotics save lives, pharmaceuticals saves lives. If people are in car accidents or people have infections, they save lives. But we just don't feel like pharmaceuticals is where you go to treat a root cause or chronic conditions. When we're talking about chronic conditions, you want to get to the root cause. And so we saw so many abuses. One situation that comes to mind is one of the pharmaceutical reps came into our office one day and said to my husband, "Oh my God, you know what? We just won this huge bid at one of the largest hospital systems in the country." And the pharmaceutical rep said to my husband, "Now, you know what my job now is? My job now is to go to every pharmaceutical or every cardiologist in this hospital system and decrease the number that they prescribe this particular medication for." And we're like, "That's it. We got to do something else and make a difference."
And what was that medication, by the way?
It was a cholesterol medication, Zocor.
God. It's the same thing we've seen with statins, right? And there's a lot of counter research now coming on about that statins don't really help in a lot of different instances, and people overprescribe them, and what's actually going on there.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the overprescription of pharmaceuticals it's crazy. I mean, the CDC estimates that over 50% of antibiotics are actually unnecessary. I mean, the CDC is admitting this, that, over 50% of our antibiotics are actually not necessary. And yet antibiotics are literally wreaking havoc on our gut health. I mean, absolutely wreaking havoc on our health.
And I'm going to talk about that because there's 2 things you said that were so interesting to me, especially when talking about children's health as well. One of the things you said that was phenomenal was about how when your kids have a fever, you actually let them sweat it out. So a couple of weeks ago, I brought onto my podcast Dr. Alyssa Song. She's a really, really famous pediatrician, and she talks exactly about this, that your body, that's how it gets rid of viruses, and that's how it builds up its own natural immunity. And kids should be allowed to sweat out their fever and their infection and go through the processes, because that's actually good for you. That's how your body takes care of removing infections from it. And the other thing she talked about is how we are over prescribing antibiotics. We're actually starting to have antibiotic fatigue. So when we really need antibiotics for life-changing infections, not for the small cold, flu, or thing like this, our bodies are becoming so like they're not going to be able to. They're becoming too tolerant to them, and there's only so many strains you can churn out. And so we're having this fatigue because of over prescription of antibiotics versus looking at things like supplementation. And people also don't know this, and this is why one of your products is so interesting, is your probiotic. Is when you're taking antibiotics, you have to match it with a probiotic protocol in order to keep the good bacteria alive, because antibiotics are like a nuclear bomb in your gut. It kills off the good stuff, but it also kills off the bad stuff. So you're basically left with nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly it. I mean, they are a nuclear bomb. I say that all the time because they're just going. It's like if there was like a fire in a neighborhood in one house, it's like the firefighter comes and like destroys all of the houses in the neighborhood instead of just, taking care of that one house that was, affected by the fire. So, and we got to avoid these antibiotics. I mean, again, I want to reiterate, I mean, if you have a horrible infection and you're, antibiotics save lives. I mean, in one respect, they are just, so amazing and should be applauded. But in the other respect, they have been just so overprescribed and so overused. And, I feel that way about a lot of pharmaceuticals out there. I mean, there are lots of life-saving, wonderful medications out there, but it is not a place to treat chronic condition. It's maybe where you start just to like deal with symptoms, but then we want to get to the root cause of issues, and that's what's something I'm just so passionate about.
So your background was so fascinating to me, when I was putting these questions together. That's why I started with that, but I want to talk about Just Thrive as well. What decided you guys, what was that point that you said, listen, we see a gap in the market, and what is that gap, and we're going to launch these products? And which one was your first product you launched? And let's talk about how big your line is now.
Sure, yeah. Our moment was just that whole realization that we weren't doing our life's work. We read a lot of Wayne Dyer, and we're deep thinkers. We work on mindset a lot, and that message of just we're not doing our life's work just kept coming back to us. And so we decided to start looking into like the natural health and wellness space. And one of my husband's colleagues and naturopath, they're colleagues and naturopathic physician, they got together and he was like, you won't believe this, but we actually have the opportunity to license these incredible strains out of London University from Dr. Simon Cutting, like world-renowned gut health probiotic expert. And he's like, I know more about the gut he's like, there's probably like 5 people in this country that know more about the gut than I do. He's like, I know, and these probiotics are the real deal. And he's like, and so we were like, we got to do this. This is so amazing. This is exactly what we were looking for. And I totally believe in like prayer and meditation, like all these things kind of came together. And we were able to license these incredible strains out of London University. And we were complete disruptors in the probiotic space. We created an entirely new category of probiotics. They're called Spore-Based probiotics, but a completely new category of probiotics that nobody had seen. A very, very uphill battle, but so much fun. Now that I look back, the journey was so much fun because we started selling in health food stores, and we go to health food stores, and a lot of these owners are super knowledgeable. I mean, they research, sometimes they know more than, a lot of times they know more than a lot of the MDs out there. And they would say like, oh my God, it makes sense that most probiotics don't survive. And so it just was it was a really organic journey, but super fun.
And what is a spore-based probiotic? For people listening, they're like, wait, Tina, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes. So a spore-based probiotic basically has this endospore shell around itself. And so it's not like a mushroom spore. It just means it has this very robust shell around itself. That shell allows it to survive the gastric system. So when you're taking a probiotic, it has to get through the gastric system and the stomach. It's meant to be the gastric barrier. There's so much acid in there, very acidic environment. Most probiotics are dying in that stomach acid. Now, the stomach acid is protective. We want stomach acid. It protects us. It's very important that we have good stomach acid, but it also gets rid of live bacteria, live microorganisms. And that's what's happening with the overwhelming majority of probiotics on the market, is that they're dying. And what you're getting in the intestines is like dead bacteria, which actually will sometimes give you some symptomatic relief. But with spores, we're getting to the root cause. So the spores have this endospore shell around itself. It allows it to get through the gastric system, arrive in the intestines, 100% alive. Once the spores get to the intestines, this is also really cool. They stay there for about 21 to 28 days, where they're working throughout the entire intestinal tract. So they start in the small intestine, work their way all the way down to this large bowel, and they're helping like rebalance that ecosystem of our gut. It's a complete, like we're like the gardener of the gut. The probiotic is the gardener, going in, helping get rid of the pathogenic bacteria and helping our good bacteria flourish in our gut. So it's a really, really effective and strong approach to taking care of our gut.
If you're serious about your long-term health, there's one vitamin you're probably not getting enough of, no matter how clean your diet is. Nearly 97% of people in the Western world are deficient in vitamin K2, and most don't even realize it. That's why K2 is nearly non-existent in modern diets, but it plays a huge role in heart health, circulation, bone strength, and even brain function. So here's why it matters so much. Low K2 levels can show up as weak bones, stiff muscle, bruising, wrinkles, and even forgetfulness and brain fog. It also is linked to major cardiovascular and bone health issues down the line. That's why I'm so excited about Just Thrive's K27, the only K2 supplement on the market that comes from 100% organic chickpea natto, the best source of K2. Delivers 320 mcg of pharmaceutical grade K27, the optimal daily dose, has guaranteed potency so your body actually absorbs what it needs. It's microbiologist formulated, clinically tested, and supports your heart, bones, brain, and circulation at the source. I've made it a part of my daily routine, and I think you'll love it too. Check it out at justthrivehealth.com and use code Biohack-it for a discount and enjoy. And then, Tina, in terms of two questions. One is, what time of day or how should we be taking our probiotics? What is the best way to take them?
So the best way to take it is at the end of your largest meal of the day, or even at the end of any meal of the day.
Okay. And it can be at night as well, like just before you go to bed? Okay.
Yeah, as long as that's when, I never want you to eat right before bed. But yeah, it's always, you could take these on an empty stomach. That's no problem at all. It's just that we've studied it. We're very research-based. We've done human clinical trials on these strains. I mean, we have just wanted to like up-level the view of the supplement industry by doing human clinical trials. But we studied how these strains work in humans, and we know that they actually work better in the presence of food. So they will work just fine on an empty stomach, but we know that you're going to get like more for your money if you take it with food.
Yeah. And then who should be taking these probiotics? Is it like for everybody? Is it kind of like these are beneficial for everybody? Is it a certain age group? Should you be doing it at a certain time of your life?
Yeah, great question. So maybe I could go back a tiny bit, because if you look at the way our ancestors evolved, we evolved eating off the land and eating roots and tubers that were on the land. And those roots and tubers were teeming with bacteria, lots of good bacteria, like the same type of bacteria that are found in Just Thrive. And so basically, we were meant to consume these strains on a regular basis. So I would argue that I can't think of any person that shouldn't be taking these. I mean, this is foundational for health. And we will see in the coming years that there's lots of different studies on probiotics. Probiotics are so hot right now, and there's some really good research. And I do think that there will be a time where we may be taking 5 to 10 different probiotics a day because of all the research that's out there. But foundationally, a spore-based probiotic it's like foundation. It's like, how people take their multivitamin, it's like the catch-all. That's how I feel about a spore-based probiotic. There's really nobody I could imagine that shouldn't be on a spore-based probiotic. I mean, kids are now hit with epidemic levels of autism, allergies, autoimmune issues, and this is all because dysbiosis going on in their gut, or imbalance in their gut. I mean, if there's ever a time that we should be taking care of our kids' gut health, is now. And just adults and the elderly, our guts are being attacked on a daily basis.
Yeah, the standard American diet is not doing anybody a favor at all. I think I read some research somewhere that on average, the average American's diet is 70 to 80% processed food. Like that statistic just blew my mind. That 70 to 80% of what most people consume, because even things like foods in the grocery store that are labeled healthy are not really healthy when you turn it over. Look at the ingredients, look at the seed oils, the additives, the preservatives, the kind of like hidden sugars. It just shows you that we're eating shit that's also, pardon my French, but is, kind of labeled healthy, but it's not.
Yeah, no, and all of these foods that we think are even healthy, we're eating produce that's sprayed with glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup. So here we've got all this. We're eating an apple, thinking this is okay, this is good, but it's actually loaded with glyphosate. So a lot of people already know that a lot of the food on the inside of the grocery store is unhealthy, even though they have the labels. But a lot of us are just like trying to eat healthy, eating produce, and yet it's loaded with all of these glyphosates. Or a lot of our animal products are loaded with antibiotics. So a lot of consumers know, okay, we shouldn't be taking antibiotics willy-nilly. At least I hope a lot. I'm sure most of your audience knows that already. We shouldn't be taking antibiotics. But I mean, we don't think of it as it's in our meat products. And so, we have to make some changes for sure, because these things are all wreaking havoc on our gut. And I think that's what I think is important to remember is our gut is dictating virtually every aspect of our overall health. It is hard to find any disease out there that's not attributable to some type of imbalance in our gut. Yet we live in this world that is so antimicrobial and so antibacterial. All these things that we're doing every day, antibacterial hand soaps and hand sanitizers, the antibiotics in our food, the household cleaning products, our personal care products, the air we're breathing, the pesticides in our food supply, all these things are just wreaking havoc on our gut. And yet it's our gut that's dictating our overall health.
Right. It's the biggest moving piece, and there have been so many diseases over the last decade, like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and dementia, and even some cancers are now getting linked back to a broken down microbiome, broken down, affecting your mitochondrial health, and it all traces back to the gut and how these diseases are born in the gut decades before they're actually diagnosed and you have full-blown symptoms.
Yeah, and I attribute a lot of that to leaky gut. Leaky gut is exactly what it sounds like. It's there's this leakiness going on from your gut into your into your bloodstream, and so we have something called LPS toxins in our gut, and they're really not that problematic in our gut. It's when they seep into our bloodstream because you have this leakiness in the gut. When those LPS toxins seep into the bloodstream, it sends off this inflammatory response. Our body sends off this inflammatory response because there's an invader. Well, that leakiness of the gut, I like to equate it to a drippy faucet. You have this little drippy faucet. It's not really causing any problems. It's like drip, drip, drip. One day, that tub overflows and it's like, oh my God, it's like a huge mess in your bathroom. And it's the same thing with our body. People will say, I never had an allergy before. Now all of a sudden I have an allergy. Well, no, you've had a leaky gut and you've had this chronic inflammatory response by your body. And that's really, all of these diseases are really stemming from this leakiness in the gut. And that's what we really need to address.
Right. And in terms of, I also found your background so interesting, Tina, considering you and let's say RFK have similar backgrounds. You guys were both lawyers who then kind of called out the bullshit going out with these regulatory bodies that are supposed to be actually protecting people, and kind of seeing these large, private industries really profiting off people's health. What is your take on the MAHA movement? By the time this episode comes out, I think hopefully, fingers crossed, he would have been confirmed. We should know more next week. But I'm just wondering, from your perspective, how do you feel about the movement? What are from a personal standpoint, when you look out at it, what are you aligned with? What are you not aligned with?
Well, what I'm mostly excited about is that there's just so much awareness now about gut health, or not gut health, but overall natural health. I mean, I'm just so excited that there's awareness about natural health out there. That is so awesome. The fact that people are talking about it all the time is so exciting. Even people, I was just listening to two people talk. I was at my physical therapy appointment, and two people were talking about how they were eating, that they're not going to let their kids, they hope RFK doesn't take away their Uncrustables because they've changed their lives for their kids. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy to me because, but in some respects, I'm like, at least now they know. At least now these people know that they shouldn't be giving their kids Uncrustables, even though they are. At least now they know maybe they'll limit it, So a part of
Yeah.
me thinks like, at least there's an awareness. Even if people don't agree with RFK, there's this awareness going on that we know that these chemicals in our food are bad for us. I mean,
Yeah.
now, it's just bringing awareness to the fact that Europe and, Australia and Asia, they are not allowing these chemicals in their foods, but we are as Americans. So, I mean, it is just such an exciting time to see RFK take this stance and, bring out this awareness to the political. I mean, it shouldn't be political. This is not, I'm not taking a political stance. My thing is like, I'm just so excited that there's like a conversation going on about it. And it's a bipartisan issue at the end of the day. Our country is not healthy. There's 60% of adult Americans have a chronic condition and 40% have two or more. I mean, that is an epidemic. These numbers are at epidemic levels.
People aren't talking about this enough, but I truly want to optimize your health. We need to be paying attention to EMFs. We are constantly plugged in, surrounded by wireless signals, radiation, frequencies that our bodies have never ever been able to handle at this level. Research has shown that EMFs can disrupt sleep, impact cellular function, and contribute to long-term health issues. Yet we're rarely talking about this or how to protect ourselves from this. This is why I was so excited when I first discovered Lila Quantum Tech. I met them 2 years ago at a biohacking conference in Austin and was absolutely blown away by the founder, Philip Mon. Hearing him on stage and learning about quantum energy technology completely shifted my perspective. I knew I had to try it for myself. And now, 2 years later, I'm so excited to have them partner with me on my podcast. One of my absolute favorite products, the Heal 360 capsule, which I wear on my quantum necklace every day. This isn't just any pendant. It's scientifically designed and quantumly charged to support your body's natural ability to heal, energize, and protect itself from harmful influences. People using it have reported more energy, mental clarity, better stress resilience, and relaxation, deeper sleep, and faster recovery. And that is also the feedback I got from our supper club when I gifted it to all our guests. Lila Quantum Tech is leading the way in quantum frequency healing with products designed to neutralize EMFs, enhance cellular function, and help your body operate at its best. I personally felt the difference since wearing Heal 360 capsule, and I think you'll love it too. Check it out at lilaq.com and use code Biohack-it for a discount. That is LEELAQ.com and use code Biohack-it. Happy healing. Right. And I was going to ask you, there's so much growing research. You might know more about the studies than I do, obviously, about the gut-brain axis and how important that connection is. Can you highlight a little bit of the research you might have seen more recently that people can go and look into themselves?
Yeah, that's a really good point because gut health and your brain health are completely connected. So there's something called the vagus nerve, which again, I'm sure most of your audience already knows this, but the vagus nerve is like this bidirectional communication between our gut and our brain. So it goes from our brainstem down to our gut. And there are signals being sent back and forth to each other. So our brain will send signals to our gut, and then our gut will send signals back to the brain. So one of the things people say, like, what can I do to take care of my gut health? For years, for the last 10, 11 years, I've been saying, you need to just, like be calm, meditate, do deep breathing, whatever it is that calms you down. Go for a walk in nature. Because when you're calm, those signals in your brain are sending signals down to your gut. And then the reverse is true. I'll say to people, if they say I'm stressed out, well, yeah, take care of your gut. You'll be able to be calm or have a better mood. And it's really important to know that 90% of our serotonin, which is our happy hormone, is actually produced in our gut, not in our brain. So 90% of our serotonin, our happy hormone, is we've always thought of serotonin being produced in our brain, but it's actually 90% of it is produced in our gut. GABA is produced in our gut, which is our calming hormone. Dopamine is produced in our gut. So all these important neurotransmitters are being produced in our gut. So, it is paramount that when you're dealing with mood issues or mental health issues, you are focusing on your gut health. It is paramount. And it's also paramount that when you're dealing with, gut issues, that you're trying to calm yourself down. And I know it's like, they're kind of going back and forth to each other, but you have to take care of both of them because they're
Right.
talking back and forth to each other all the time.
And this is why, like, I'm so sometimes shocked at, like, especially young, men and women who end up, having mental health issues and stuff, and they go to these doctors and they just get put on SSRIs, and no conversation is having about their nutrition, about their quality of sleep, are they drinking enough water, all of this stuff. No conversation is being given to, hey, what is your diet like? Like, what are you actually consuming in the day? And are you living on junk food? If you're living on processed food, then of course you're going to have mental health issues right away because you're not feeding yourself correctly. You're not taking care of your gut.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, we have another family member who is diabetic, and the doctor literally said, you could eat, yeah, just take your insulin, but you don't have to change your diet. You don't have to do anything. You just take your insulin. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I mean, this was a few years back, but I'm like, I cannot believe that these conversations are actually going on. And, it's like, well, just take the medicine and you don't have to worry about any of that. And, no discussion of the side effects of medicine or anything like that. So, and I mean, doctors are well-intentioned people. Their hands are tied by a lot of the system. That's why the system is broken. I mean, it is a sick care system. It is not a healthcare system. And I know that's overused, but it is worth repeating because it is a sick care system. We are not focusing on our health in this country. And that's what's so exciting about this movement right now is just seeing that people are focusing on health and bringing awareness that we have to be, I've been saying this for years, we have to be the CEOs of our own health. I mean, I have been screaming this from the rooftop for years. I'm so excited that there's people out there like Casey and Callie Means that are out there on the circuit talking about it. They're much more well-spoken than I ever could be, and they're getting the message out there. But I really feel like it's just exciting to see this discussed and making some real changes to really have a healthcare system.
You know what shocked me on the back of what you're kind of saying, that the three leading causes of death in America is, one is obviously cardiac disease. So number one is cardiac disease. Number two is cancer. And number three is medical malpractice. And when I saw this research, I was shocked. So I was like, two of those, cardiac disease and cancer, are lifestyle diseases as well. So they can completely be controlled through lifestyle, therefore reduced, and therefore the number of deaths completely reduced through diet, exercise, awareness, sleep quality, hydration, all of this stuff that we're talking about. And the third is medical malpractice. Like, just the medical system is killing people at such a high rate. And it's like, kind of makes me think about, there's no liability with these hospitals. It's very hard to like sue them, or, doctors are not getting properly the proper training that they need sometimes. And so we have all these specialists, and we spend hundreds and thousands of dollars putting people through medical school in the US. But if that is the third highest rate of why people are dying, it makes you think about the system as a whole. And it's just crazy. If there was, I heard this on another podcast, I think it was Gary Brecka was talking about this somewhere, about how, like, if it was an insurance company and they, were insuring certain areas and stuff, but the houses were burning down in those areas, then they wouldn't have a right to get insurance done, right? So we have these insurance companies on one side, but our healthcare system is so damn broken. So how do we prevent against it if we don't overhaul the entire system?
Yeah, I mean, the system has to be completely overhauled. You're absolutely right. I mean, look at, like, medical schools are being funded by Big Pharma. I mean, our physicians are being educated by the pharmaceutical influence, and it's just, it shouldn't be that way. I mean, there's such little discussion about nutrition. Of course, I mean, we've heard Callie Means talk about that like crazy, and I mean, she's gone through it all. And so I just think it's so important that we just do a complete rehaul, because of exactly, the physicians are being educated by the pharmaceutical reps coming into their office, giving free samples, doing all that kind of stuff. And then just down to like the medical schools are accepting funding. I mean, that should be forbidden. It should not be allowed to have medical schools. I mean, there's, like, again, I always say there's pharmaceuticals out there that are doing great things, and there should be a spot to learn about them. But when we're talking about chronic conditions and chronic disease, we need to get to the root cause. We need to address the root cause either before something drastic happens or simultaneously while you're on a pharmaceutical.
And then what do you say to people who dismiss like the gut-brain connection as pseudoscience? Well, what's your statement to them?
Have you ever been excited and had butterflies in your stomach? Like, how does that happen? Or have you ever been like super nervous and then you have to go to the bathroom? Or have you ever been hangry? All of those things. I mean, it is so evident that there is a gut-brain connection. I don't even know how anybody could dispute that. First of all, it's very clear in research and studies that there is a huge gut-brain connection. But I mean, you just know yourself, like when you're super excited, you get butterflies in your stomach, or you're nervous, your bowels start to act weird, or you can't eat, you don't have an appetite. I mean, it's very connected.
And then you have another really great product, which ties into something we were just speaking about, is keeping yourself calm and that kind of like the gut brain axis, being able to communicate with each other on that. So you have a product also called Just Calm, which plays a huge role in kind of promoting a healthy response to stress and enhancing mood and all that stuff. So could you elaborate a little bit about how this product was developed, the strain in it, and kind of from the scientific aspect, how it works?
Yeah, sure. So this is really exciting. This is a strain called Bifidolongum 1714. And this was studied extensively at Cork University in Ireland. And so this is a preeminent gut study research institute that studied this strain and actually found that this strain 1714, Bifidolongum 1714, which is found in our Just Calm product, actually helps handle, you have different perceptions of stress. So it actually lowers the perception of stress. It actually changes brainwave activity. So putting us more into that flow state, like a theta wave, like more into that flow state. It's so exciting because it's like it's getting to the root cause. Because what we always say is there's two sources of stress that we experience. So or brain inflammation. There's two sources of brain inflammation that we experience. One is those external stressors that we deal with, like when we're dealing with like stress. You're in traffic, you're late for a meeting, you have a glitch with your computer, you're in a fight with a loved one. We have those external stresses. We're not getting away from those. I mean, no matter what, those are presented to us every day. We're dealing with stressors. It's how does our brain perceive those stressors? And the Just Calm product, this Bifidolongum 1714 strain, that's exactly what that's supposed to do, is to help us deal with stress better, bring us down into more of that theta wave, that flow state, and have us have that perception of stress be so much better. We all know those people that could just handle stress better and than we can. I mean, it's amazing. Like I have a friend that like hears a fire truck go by and she's like, oh, there's just a cat, up in a tree or something. And I'm like, I see a fire truck go by. I used to be like, oh my God, I hope that's not going in my house. I'd be freaking out about it. But this actually helps us be one of those people and just be calmer. And then the other form of brain inflammation is from those LPS toxins that I talked about earlier, seeping into the bloodstream and then going up to the brain and causing an inflammatory response in the brain. So with the probiotic, with the spore-based probiotic, and then with the 1714 strains and Just Calm, it's a really fantastic duo because it's actually helping with both of the forms of stress that we're, faced with our brain.
I want to tell you about something I've been using lately that's made me think very differently about how we take care of our bodies. Did you know your blood vessels have a special lining inside them that keeps everything running smoothly? It's called the endothelial glyphocala. Don't worry, I can barely say it either. Basically, it helps protect your blood vessels and keeps blood flowing like it should. Now, why does that really matter? Because good blood flow means good heart, brain, muscles, everything is getting the oxygen and nutrients it needs to work its best. Whether you're working out, focusing on your desk, or just enjoying life, keeping your blood moving efficiently is what helps you feel energized and stay healthy. That's why I'm so excited about Calroy's Vascular bundle. It combines two products together. They're like a powerhouse duo for healthy circulation, and they work to support your body at the source. Plus, Calroy is offering a discount when you get them as a bundle. It's been such an easy way for me to prioritize my health, and I think you'll love it as well. Check out the link below and use code Biohack-it. All right, let's get back to it. And then what is a dose somebody should be taking every day and what time of day? Because with supplements, this is one thing I've started asking is, what time should we be taking each product? Because how, some are fat soluble, some are not. So with Just Calm, we figured out what to do with the probiotic, but with Just Calm, what time of day and how many tablets?
Yeah, you could do it either once or twice a day. So the time of day doesn't really matter. It kind of depends on yourself. So if you're one of these people who wakes up and your cortisol is so overly high and you're like already stressed out, then definitely take it first thing in the morning because I just think it helps you just start the day out better. Some people want to take it at night because it just may help them sleep better. It's not like a sleep product. I mean, it's really great for sleep, but when you're calmer, you're obviously going to sleep better. So a lot of people like to take it at night. Some people take it both times. They take it first thing in the morning, then they take it before bed. The with or without food doesn't really matter as much. It's more to take it in first thing in the morning if you're one of those people that wakes up pretty high strung, or if you're one of those people who really wants to help sleeping and just be calmer before bed. Maybe your mind races right before bed. Just take it at night.
I've been taking it AM and PM. I really like this. I got the product, like, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago, and I started taking it. So I've been taking it morning, first thing in the morning, to just get my mind, like, head right in the morning, just before I meditate and stuff, and it's kind of helping me. And then I'm taking it at night. So that's how I'm personally taking it. And it has improved my sleep score, because I wear an Oura ring, and I also sleep in the 8 sleep on my bed. So I can track my sleep and my deep sleep and my REM sleep, and then also see where my HRV is at. And it has improved my sleep score, which is, like, obviously a big deal to me.
Yeah, I love that. We have heard that so many times, because now people could, like, track their sleep. So it's amazing when you calm your mind how much better your sleep is. Obviously, I mean, that's pretty obvious, but who would have thought that it would have been in a probiotic that could have helped? Because, for so many years, like, psychiatrists have had their hands tied with these SSRIs and all these medications. And, they really kind of got it wrong. What we need to focus on when you're dealing with mental health issues and mood issues is your gut. And this is what we're going to be finding out. I mean, you could Google anything, gut health and brain health, gut health and skin health, gut health and autoimmune issues, gut health and heart disease, gut health and cancer, gut health and, bone health. It's all related. I mean, it's hard to find anything out there that's not stemming from our gut. And yet nobody's talking about it. I mean, I'm even waiting for RFK to start talking about it even more, because it's like gut health is literally responsible for all aspects of our overall health. And these ultra processed foods are just wreaking havoc on our gut health. And, obviously Americans are consuming them at record levels.
Yeah. I was also really interested to pick your brain about, like, what role do micronutrients like B6, B9, B12 play in supporting your brain health? And why do you think they're so crucial in maintaining mental health balance and clarity?
Yeah, so those 3 nutrients are really important for our brain health. We know that they're helpful for memory, for just cognitive function, mental clarity. All of these B vitamins have been studied so extensively on brain health activity. So that's why we included those with our 1714 to complement what 1714 is doing with, reducing that, perception of stress and improving our brainwave activity. So lots of great studies on B vitamins, and so many people are deficient in them.
Right. And is it some strains are more, like, should everybody be on these 3 strains, or do some people need more of one, less of the other?
Yeah, well, it's always good to test your micronutrient levels. I feel like, the thing is, they're water soluble. So, like, you're going to, B12, you're not going to really take too much of it. So you should be okay with that. But, I think that we're getting so depleted of these nutrients. I mean, I wish there was a day that we wouldn't have to do that. And if we went to, like, tribes in Tanzania or Papua New Guinea, there are these, like, tribes that live off the land like our ancestors used to. And they don't have any of these gastrointestinal issues. I mean, they don't have issues that we're facing in the modern world. But unfortunately, our food supply is so depleted of these nutrients. Our soil is so depleted of the nutrients that we need to be supplementing with a lot of these micronutrients and probiotic strains, and, of course, other things. And one of the other things I think is really important to mention is that our gut is what is responsible for absorbing all of these nutrients. So this is why I say, like, a spore-based probiotic is so foundational to our overall health, because you may be taking a multivitamin, you may be taking vitamin D, you may be taking vitamin C. All of those micronutrients, all of those nutrients are super important. But if your gut is inflamed, which unfortunately so many people's guts are inflamed, you're not absorbing those nutrients. So you could be eating all this clean, healthy, all these green, fibrous foods and all this stuff, but if your gut is not absorbed or not healthy, it's not absorbing those nutrients. So it's why we start with gut health. And the other thing I just want to mention is that one of the strains in our product, in Just Thrive Spore-Based Probiotic, is a strain called HU36. That strain actually produces antioxidants. So it produces things like alpha oh my God, hold on, beta carotene, lycopene, astaxanthin, all these really important antioxidants are being produced right inside the intestines. And most antioxidants have trouble absorbing. So you only get about 20% of the antioxidants you're even taking supplement form, you're only getting about 20%. But this strain actually helps produce those antioxidants right at the site of absorption. This is a very unique strain. And the researchers on our leaky gut study, because we have a double-blind human clinical trial on leaky gut, the researchers in that study believe that it's that HU36 strain that actually helps with that oxidative stress and helps. That's why they think that we had such great results with the leaky gut study, because it's the HU36 that's helping with that oxidative stress and helping combat the oxidative stress that's, wreaking havoc on the gut lining.
And I was going to ask you, how does someone test their micronutrients? What's your favorite way to do it?
Yeah, so I've done the SpectraCell test before. There's many other tests out there, but I don't, years ago I started with SpectraCell, so that's one of the tests that I've used. But there's lots of different micronutrient tests out there. You ask your doctor. I mean, functional medicine doctors would definitely have their preference of what they like to use.
I don't know if Vibrant Labs has a good one. I think they might have a good test. If somebody's listening to this and they're like, well, how do I test my micronutrients? I think Vibrant Labs might have one. And also, yeah, guys, just ask your functional medicine doctor how they want to test those levels in you. So when it comes to, also, I want to ask, when it comes to probiotics labels, when consumers are shopping for probiotics, what should they be looking for on the label, which is a red flag and a green flag?
Yes. Okay. So that's an awesome question, because it's such it's like the wild, wild west out there. So the first thing, of course, I would say just look for a spore-based probiotic. And how you know if it's a spore-based probiotic, it starts with bacillus. So bacillus would indicate that it's a spore base. Most probiotics on the market, the overwhelming majority of probiotics on the market, are made up of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. And so lactobacillus and bifidobacterium are generally very sensitive organisms. Those are the organisms that would die in the stomach acid. A lot of probiotics you see are refrigerated. That's one of the biggest myths out there. Like, if a probiotic needs to be refrigerated, how in the world would it survive your body temperature?
I'm so excited you said that, because I was just thinking when I'm talking to you right now, I wrote it down in my questions to be like, there's so many probiotics and they're like, you need to refrigerate this. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, but by the time it hits your body, it's not refrigerated. So like, what happens then?
Yeah, they die. That's what happens. I mean, if a probiotic can't withstand the room temperature of the store shelf, how in the world would it ever survive your body temperature, which is 98.6, much hotter than the room temperature of the store shelf? So the overwhelming majority of probiotics are dying. And we've tested this. I mean, we've had an independent third-party lab test all of these, popular products that are in, refrigerators, and many that are not in refrigerators too. I mean, they just are dying. Most of them are like dead bacteria and on arrival. So, and there are some lactobacillus strains that are very single strain studied. And so that's the other part. So I would always recommend that you look at a label and go with a spore-based probiotic. But then now you need to look at the label. The label needs to say, like, for example, on our product, Bacillus subtilis HU58. So Bacillus is the genus, subtilis is the species, and then the HU58 is the strain ID. It's really important to have products that have the strain ID behind them. But now, just to get even more nuanced, that strain ID actually it can't just be there for marketing. A lot of times people, they'll put a strain ID just because it looks like more scientific.
Greenwashing.
Yes, you want to make sure that strain ID actually links to a study on that strain, and then understand the study behind the strain. Because, what's happening is there's a whole other section of it, but it's like, so basically you want to make sure that research that is in there is on that particular strain ID. There's a lot of research out there that it'll say, like, there could be, like, somebody will put on their product Bacillus subtilis, but it doesn't say HU58, but it might say something else. But then they're trying to borrow our science and say that, our probiotic has the same science behind it. And it's just not true. I mean, it's completely different. These strains are, they have very unique roles. And then I would also say the other thing that's really important is that you want to make sure that when you're looking at a probiotic, you want one that has a study on the finished formulation, the combination of the strains. And this is something that is so overlooked in probiotics. You're seeing probiotics probiotics out there, very popular probiotics that have 15 different strains, 10, 15 different strains in there. Well, we don't know what happens when these are live microorganisms. These are live microorganisms that are put in a vat together and they're grown together, and one strain could take over another. There was a study that was done at UC Davis, about probably 6 years ago, found that like these probiotics that were marketed to children actually didn't even meet label claims. So like probiotics, like one strain was in the vat and it took over another strain. So a strain that was listed on the label was actually not in the product. Or even worse is two strains came together and created a whole new strain that's never been studied. We don't know if it's safe. We don't know if it's not safe. We just don't know because we can't assume the structure and function of these are live microorganisms. We have to really make sure that they are doing what they say they do. So in our product, we actually studied the finished formulation. So the leaky gut study is on our combination of strains and what they actually do in the body. And that's and we know that the safety and efficacy has been studied.
Yeah. I think this is something you pointed to, which is so important, is that the supplement industry as a whole has like very little regulation. Yes, you can't make claims, which thank God you just can't walk around making claims, but it's so unregulated. So people with greenwashing, with clever marketing, with clever like words that they're able to use are able to slide things over or misrepresent what their product does or doesn't do, or even what ingredients, like you've just said, are in the product, with being really sneaky about it. And that is something I do hope and wish there's better regulation coming in for around supplements, the world of supplements, and when it becomes more trustworthy. Two brands like yours that are probably doing the science and the research actually get put to the forefront because they're actually doing it the correct way versus like just taking shortcuts with, borrowing somebody else's science, like you said, or just putting tricky language on it just to kind of get by and sit on a shelf. And I think it really will support credible brands coming through and getting put to the forefront.
Yeah, I sure hope so because, regulation is tricky because, we've seen the regulations of the pharmaceutical industry and tens of thousands of people have been, killed from, like that drug Vioxx was out there, killed tens of thousands of people, and that was regulated. So it's like, it's really tricky. And that's why I'm always a fan of just trying to empower the consumer, and shows like yours are huge for that because people who are listening right now are empowering themselves. And I think that's the key, is that at the end of the day, we have to empower ourselves and we have to educate ourselves. I mean, it's so cliche, but you're the CEO of your own health, and you have to educate yourself, and you have to be the person that's deciding what you're going to put in your body. And I think the government plays a huge role in making people aware of what's out there, and of course taking the bad actors out there. There's counterfeit. We had our product counterfeited out there on Amazon. I mean,
yeah, I was just going to say that. Please, can we talk a second about this whole Amazon counterfeiting so we can teach people on how to shop for supplements on Amazon?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was terrible. I mean, our product was counterfeited on Amazon, and you can't. Amazon will handle the problem, but it could take weeks. By the time and now, who knows how many people have purchased the product. And so, yeah, you always I always just feel like go to a brand's website and order it, or go to a store and order it, buy it. I think that's one of the biggest things you could do. Usually get a better price anyway.
I want to blow people's mind over here. So guys, please do not buy supplements on Amazon unless you're buying it by a storefront owned by the brand. So unless there's an actual public facing storefront that is owned by Just Thrive or Set Brand, whoever it is, do not buy your supplements on Amazon, because what they're doing is the black market. Believe me, there's a whole industry that does this. The black market takes, like, repeats the packaging, which they can do, and just mixes like junk into the capsules and just sells them as that said brand. And there's a whole secondary market for this stuff, like counterfeit supplements. It's really what it is counterfeit supplements. And so I always say, when you're shopping for supplements, ideally the best way to go is go on the brand's actual website, like Tina's saying, purchase it directly from them. And then if you do want to just be like, hey, I'm on Amazon, how do I do this? Please find the storefront for the brand and make sure you check that out. Make sure it's legit before you say add to cart and check out.
Yeah, I'd go one step further because what was happening with us is it would say like our store, they would use our store, but then it was actually sold by someone else. So you have to see who it's sold by. And what's hard is sometimes there's legitimate resellers of your product. So if you go on, we actually have a whole article, a blog post on this on our website if
You
anybody
do?
wants to
Where
check it
can
out.
people, so
Yeah.
what is it under? What is it captioned
It's
under?
justthrivehealth.com, and then you would just go to the blog post and you could just put in like Amazon counterfeit and the blog post will come up because it's very tricky. I mean, it's very, and like sometimes people truly have a legitimate reseller on there, but that was not the case with us. We had tons of counterfeiters, and we've since resolved the problem, but it's still really scary. And of course, I'd always encourage people to purchase from the website. It's just safer.
What is your take? Because we've spoken so much about the gut. And so what's your take on gluten?
Yeah. So gluten is bad for all of us. So, there's people who think, I tolerate gluten fine. I'm one of those people. I've never had an issue with gluten in my life.
Yeah.
I could eat, pizza and bread. Not that I do, but I could, and it would be fine. And so, but we know that it's not good for anybody. I mean, we know that it's chipping away at that gut lining. So some people are lucky enough, and I don't want to say lucky enough, but they know that their body doesn't tolerate. So they avoid it because that's good. We want to avoid it. But it's very disruptive to our gut lining. And so I would try to avoid it at all costs.
There's a fun research thing that I found. The prevalence of gluten in foods labeled gluten-free is so high. One study showed that 32% of these foods labeled gluten-free still contained gluten.
Yes, yes. Isn't that scary? And
It's crazy.
crazy. I mean, and that's why we developed this product, Gluten Away, and it actually helps break down the gluten into like undetectable levels because like we never say like, oh, go eat whatever you want to eat and then take gluten away and it'll be fine. It's more there to like as an insurance policy for people when they're eating gluten or when they're trying to eat gluten free, and yet there are trace amounts, or not even trace amounts, a decent amount of gluten in it. But even some spices have gluten in it. Like, you don't even think about it. There's people who have celiac disease that just a trace amount of gluten would be detrimental for them. So that's one of the reasons why we created the product, was because it helps break down gluten to like undetectable levels.
So when somebody starts, like let's say they hear the episode and they're so excited about Just Thrive and everything we've spoken about, and sometimes I can take a lot of supplements. I'm fine doing it. But some people just generally get so overwhelmed, especially when they're starting their health and wellness journey. So, Tina, where would you point them to if you had to say the 3 or 4 first products from your line that they should start with? And can you explain? We obviously talked about I assume the probiotics is one. But besides the probiotics, what are the other 3 products they should start with and why?
Oh gosh, this is hard because we literally only launch products that are missing and needed in the market. And I mean, I take everything except for our dog product because there's nothing that we create that I don't take myself. I mean, or my kids and our whole family. So, of course, like you said, the probiotic is foundational. It's where you start. If you want to start with one product, I would start with a probiotic. I would always say that, you start with the probiotic, and then 3 weeks later, maybe 3 to 4 weeks later, you could start introducing whatever product resonates with you. Of course, if you're feeling stressed, if you are one of those people that has difficulty handling stress, I would go with the Just Calm. It has been game changing for our customers. Game changing. I mean, unfortunately, people are so stressed out now. I mean, it sold out immediately when we launched it. It is a very, very popular product. And then I would say the prebiotic, which is the food for the good bacteria in our gut. So I always like to explain that the probiotic is like the gardener in the gut, helping get rid of the weeds in the garden, helping bring our good bacteria back to life. And our prebiotic is like the fertilizer. So it's feeding our beneficial bacteria. Many prebiotics, you have a question?
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, when should somebody take the prebiotic then? So we've talked about when somebody should take a probiotic. When should people be taking the prebiotic?
So I would say to take the prebiotic throughout the day. So we have 2 forms.
3 times?
Yeah, you could take it 3 times. We have capsule form, which is like 3 or 4 capsules a day, and then we have a powder form. So I put it in my water in the morning, and then I just kind of sip it through the day. And it's better to kind of like feed your microbiome throughout the day.
I'm going to order that after this because I always have a big water bottle that I take everywhere with me with electrolytes and stuff in it.
Yes.
So I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to order your prebiotic and drop it into my water.
Yeah, it's really a fantastic product. Also, it helps with feeling fuller too. So I get that a lot from people too, which I know that that's a struggle for a lot of people as well. So yeah, I would. So I'd probably say like the probiotic, the prebiotic, and if you're stressed out, the Just Calm. But we actually have product coaches on our team because we have such gut health supplement products, like such science backed, like we have our IgG, which IgG is like the main ingredient in colostrum. So our IgG product is more powerful than most colostrums out there. We
Wow.
have a gut fortify product. And so
Can you
it's,
talk to me about this IgG? Because I didn't touch upon that. I haven't tried that out yet, so I'm really excited to get more into that as well because I take colostrum. So tell me about this IgG.
yeah, so IgG is like, if you look at colostrum, it has IgG in it, but it does,
Right.
most colostrums don't have nearly as much as the IgG that we have. So this has like 25% more IgG than most out there. And so IgG is basically an immunoglobulin G that actually goes in and helps get rid of the toxins that are, these pathogens that are, affecting us.
And how does somebody take that product? Is it something you put in a liquid, in a juice, in a smoothie?
No, it's just a capsule. It's a
Oh, it's
couple.
a capsule.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it's
And
actually
can
four
this be a
capsules.
swap for colostrum, essentially? If you're on colostrum, can you
Absolutely.
just take this?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, it's better because it doesn't have, like, there's no dairy. Some people have aversions to dairy or have issues, allergies with dairy. And so it's definitely a swap for colostrum. Absolutely. In fact,
And
we're
then
going
one
to
product.
rename it because colostrum is like having its day. And I'm like, people don't realize like the active thing in colostrum is the IgG.
One of the other products I'm going to tell people what I really liked from you is the gluten away. So how I talked about how, that gluten really does destroy your microbiome, your gut, and then 32% of foods that they say they are gluten free still have gluten in them. One of the products I really liked from you, and there was really good research that your website also had in the blog section, was the gluten away.
Yes.
Is kind of, can you talk a little quickly about that as well?
Yeah, so that's the product that I was mentioning that actually breaks down the gluten to undetectable levels of gluten. So, really, really fantastic product. I mean, I will take that, even though it's meant for we created it for the accidental exposure to gluten, but I will definitely take it before a meal. This is a product that you take before a meal. So you would take it about 10 minutes before if we decide to like have a Friday night with some pizza or we're going out,
Yeah.
we're having some bread, we will take it. Now, I don't that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to prevent like that accidental exposure. But I never want to encourage people to eat gluten. But we all are human, and we do it once in a while. And
It
so,
happens.
but
Yeah.
it's a really a fantastic product. Also has some betaine HCl, so increases stomach acid, which is super helpful.
I've just loved talking to you. I need to get you on for a second episode because I just feel like you've shared so much incredible research and knowledge with building this brand. And I really feel when it comes to supplements, there should be more founders like you that are really doing the research, backing into the science, changing their products as they need to go along with the research and science that's coming out to support it and really being really passionate about the space. So I'm really grateful for you to coming on to Biohack-it today and sharing your personal journey and why you guys started in this space, but also telling us about Just Thrive. So thank you for that.
Oh gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful for you and for, spreading all this knowledge to so many people and for everyone listening that you took the time out of your day to listen to us. And if you ever have any questions, I always tell people, give yourself grace. It's a journny, but just if anyone has any questions, you could always reach us at justthrivehealth.com. And I think we have a coupon code too. So if you go to
Yes.
justthrivehealth.com, it's Biohack-it for
Yes.
20% off, and talk to our health coaches. And my husband and I started this just out of pure goodness to try to change the world and make the
Yep.
world a better place and healthier place. And we don't have investors. We're bootstrapped. This was all on our own, and we don't have to answer to anyone but ourselves. So,
Yeah.
we're happy if you give it a try.
I'm so excited. And I'm also going to convince your team to let me do a giveaway for our community, maybe with, some of the favorite products that I've discussed on the show. So I'm going to plan that out. And so guys, if you're listening, please subscribe and share and save our content because really without this community that I built here and online and without your support, the podcast would really go nowhere. So I'm so grateful for all of you and for you guys to tune in and support our incredible guests and our journey. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Biohack-it. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a short review. It really helps us reach more listeners just like you. Follow us on Instagram at biohack-it for exclusive content and the latest updates. Remember, your health is in your hand and curiosity heals.